Hey guys, today we're going to talk about Chapter 10, Section 2, the Roman Republic. This is good stuff. It's juicy. The story at the end that I'm going to share with you is going to blow your mind. Thank you for your responses on Chapter 10, Section 1 about Romulus and Remus and the beginning of Rome and how the civilization came to be. I really liked listening to those videos. I think so far, as of last night, like 8:30, 9 o'clock, I had responded to everybody's Flipgrid. So if you posted a new one, I will send you a little message too later today. All right, so I'm going to go through this information about Rome's government, how their society was set up. It's not boring. Trust me, it's not. You're going to really like listening to this. And then there's going to be a couple of questions in Canvas for you to go and answer about this information. If you get stumped on it and you feel like you need a little bit more information or assistance, you can go to the Canvas assignment that you're in, go back to that assignment, and at the very top of it, I have posted a link to the textbook. So I have scanned that whole entire chapter in for you. It's there for your use. Use it whenever you need it. Also, next week, I'm going to be pushing out a live stream so that we can get together as a class and just visit with one another, talk about things that you're concerned about, questions that you have, anything that you want help with for this class or for homework. I'll be there for you in the live stream. It's completely optional. You don't have to do it, but I hope that I see lots of faces there because it would be nice to see you guys. All right, let's get into this. So in ancient Rome, they had a social pyramid, and it only had two sections, which is weird because when we have talked about other societies, they have social pyramids with, 5 or 6 levels in it. Not ancient Rome, there was only 2. So at the top of their social pyramid, this was 10% of their society. They called themselves patricians, and they were the wealthy and powerful people. And then 90% of their society, so all the rest of this social pyramid, were just regular, average, ordinary people like us. They were farmers and merchants and soldiers, and it also included, poorer people, people who were involved in slavery and being servants and that kind of stuff. All right, so as Rome gets bigger, the plebeians are getting upset with the patricians because they feel like the patricians have access to resources like the police and an army and different kinds of social services like medical care, libraries, things like that. They're upset because they feel like only the plebeians get to use that stuff, and the plebeians really aren't that much of the population. They feel like they all should be entitled to have those things. So they're getting upset. They're starting to be frustration in their civilization. Okay, I'm going to move forward a little bit, but I'm going to come back to those patricians and plebeians. So the Roman government was a republic, just like us. We say the pledge, and to the republic for which it stands. All right, we are a republic. They were a republic. And it just means that citizens have the right to vote and choose their leaders. Now, democracy, on the flip side, means the majority wins. So we use our right as a republic to vote, and then we use democracy to choose our winner. All right, so citizens vote for for representatives and 2 consuls to serve in their Senate. They call Senate like we call Congress. Okay, it's all of our representatives are in Congress. All of their representatives are in this group that's called the Senate. So the citizens vote for representatives and 2 consuls to serve in the Senate. Now, in the beginning, only patricians could serve in the government, which I hope that you're thinking about that because that means only the rich people. Only rich people could be a part of their government. Are they going to really understand the needs of poor people? What they're missing out on in life, what they need help with? Probably not. This is a problem. Now the consuls, they managed the government, the Senate, and the army. And if one consul disagreed with the actions of the other, then the other one could stop his actions, okay? And in a state of an emergency, a consul could choose a dictator who would make the decisions for everybody, for the army, for the government. But these consuls, they kind of worked like partners to run the government. Okay, let's talk about tribunes. No, you hear tribunes and maybe you think of this. If you don't know, by the way, who these people are, you have all this time right now. You need to find out who these people are and watch what they do. Okay, So no, we're not talking about those tribunes. I'm talking about these tribunes, these two people right here. And back in ancient Rome, the most famous of two tribunes around the year 200 BC were these two guys. Their names were Tiberius and Gaius, and they were tribunes that led the Senate. Now, the tribunes protected the rights of plebeians. So all the average people in the world are cheering, yay, these people, they've come to help us out. All right. So the patricians are becoming super, super rich. They're gobbling up all of this land that's in ancient Rome. We've talked about in other societies where kings and emperors and leaders, they got big chunks of land and they gave it out to their friends and their family and all this kind of stuff. And then the average guy who just wanted to have a little bit of land couldn't get it or couldn't afford to purchase any of the land. So the patricians they're rich. They're going out and buying up all of this land. Now, if you're an average guy, that means you more than likely are a farmer. And if you're a farmer and you can't afford to buy any land, you're in big trouble, right? All right, so this forced the plebeians to have to rent land from the patricians. And the rent would be so high on the land that the plebeians didn't have enough money to just buy the basic things that they need. Now, I know this sounds weird, like renting land, but it's a really common thing even still today. Farmers will rent land from people. So there could be this enormous field, maybe it's, 40 or 50 acres, 100 acres, whatever it is. And a farmer, instead of buying land all around town, would go to the person who owns that huge field and say, could I rent it from you for the year? I'll pay you money. I want to plant my crop there. And it's a real common thing even still today. I know farmers that do this all the time. It's super, super common. But the problem back then was that they were renting out these fields for such an expensive price that it just was so unfair to the plebeians. They couldn't really survive on what they had to pay. So as time went on, the plebeians, they start to demand more rights. Because remember, they're 90% of the population. There is power in numbers. Like when you want to go somewhere, you want to go see a movie or go to the mall or go out to eat with friends, your parents are not ever going to drop you off to sit at that restaurant by yourself or at the movie theater by yourself. They're going to say, okay, if you're joining a group of friends, yes, then I'll think about it. Maybe that's going to be okay. Because there's power in groups of numbers, okay, and groups of people. So this 90% of the population is like, hey, there's way more of us than the rest of them. Let's gang up on these patricians and let's start demanding some rights. So to meet their demands, the Senate gets this group of tribunes. And during the Senate meetings, if the tribunes felt that the patricians were doing something that was unfair to the plebeians, the 90% of the population, then they would yell out the word veto, which means I forbid. And veto is still something that we do today in our government. Our Congress has the right to use a veto, and so does the president have the right to use a veto. Meaning if one of the two tries to do something that the other group doesn't like or they think it's a bad idea, they can veto it. They can stop it so that it doesn't move forward. So these tribunes were using that right to protect the plebeians. All right, so we go to war with Carthage. Carthage should sound familiar to you. We've talked about it. We talked about it in Egypt, and I think we talked about it in Greece, that it's this city-state that's located in northeast Africa. And remember that we're talking about Rome, which is in Italy, which is in, I hope you know, Europe. And Carthage has one of the most powerful armies in the whole entire world. They come and attack Rome in 264 because they want to take this territory over and add it to their empire. These fights went on in waves. There was 8 waves of battles that went on for 120 years, which is ridiculous. All right, so these wars were called the Punic Wars. And during this time, Carthage had this general that everybody back at that time thought he was just the greatest thing there ever was. And he was pretty impressive in what he had accomplished so far up to that point. So in this war, Hannibal has a herd of elephants, and he is known for using those elephants in battle. He decides to take them to Rome, to attack Rome that way. And because, elephants aren't super fast, word got out to Rome that he was on his way with his elephants. And so a Roman general named Scipio, what a crazy name. This Roman general named Scipio, he hears that Hannibal is on the way with his army and the elephants. And Scipio takes off with his army for Carthage, and he gets to Carthage before Hannibal gets to Rome. And Scipio attacks Carthage and causes them to surrender to the Roman army, and Rome takes Carthage in as a part of their territory. So Scipio is known as a hero going forward. All right, here's the last bit of information. You guys are going to like this information. This is the juicy part. All right, so the Roman Republic comes to an end. Julius Caesar was one of the most famous and powerful leaders of all Roman generals and rulers that had ever been. I know you guys have heard his name. I know for a fact because I have talked about him before. He conquered lots of lands to help expand the empire. And the reason that I talked about him before... Hi, Sammy. Sammy came to visit us today. Hi, buddy. Are you going to tell him about Rome? Hi. All right, back to this stuff. Okay, so... he conquered lots of lands to expand the empire, and where we heard about him was in ancient Egypt. We heard about him when we were talking about this lady, Cleopatra. Remember, she was the queen of Egypt, and that she, even though she was married to a guy named Mark Antony, she had started a relationship with Julius Caesar, who was also married. And she and Julius Caesar carried on this affair basically for several years, and she ended up having a child with him. And it's going to be important that you remember that, because that child is going to come back into the picture here shortly, probably in tomorrow's notes. You're really going to want to hear that because that's really juicy. All right, so people were afraid of his power because, remember, everyone was thinking that Egypt and Rome were going to merge together and become this massive, powerful empire. And if you remember back to Cleopatra and Egypt, like, people were dropping like flies. Cleopatra's family, they were all killing each other because they all wanted to be in power. All right, so Julius Caesar and Cleopatra, they're kind of a scary couple. In 444 BC, Julius Caesar shows up to work at the Senate, that picture that I showed you at the beginning of the slides. He shows up there to work, and waiting for him are all of these senators. When he walks through the door, they attack him. They end up stabbing him to death, like multiple times. They stab him to death. And so this struggle for war begins because now Rome has no leader. So a civil war starts in the country where they're trying to figure out who is going to take over power between the patricians and the plebeians and all of the generals and the military. Everybody's fighting to find out who is going to become the new leader. And when I'm talking about fighting, I'm not talking about like social media fighting like we have today where everybody is a keyboard warrior arguing with each other online. I'm talking about swords and fighting. They are fighting to the death for who's going to become the new leader. At that point, the republic comes to an end. So what I'm saying is the citizens' right to vote comes to an end. And the next time that I share notes with you guys, I am going to tell you some wild stuff. So make sure that you come back. But for today, flip back over to Canvas Quiz. I've got a few questions in there for you to answer about what I covered today. I hope you guys are doing good. Miss ya, and I can't wait to see you in the live stream. Talk to you soon, guys.